Have you ever loved someone without knowing if it was right? Maybe it was quiet. Maybe it was hidden. Maybe it didn't even have a name. But your heart knew, even if no one else did. There was a warmth when they walked into the room, a stillness when they looked at you. Like something in you softened, even if just for a moment. It didn't matter if you were supposed to. If the timing was wrong, if they were ever truly yours, because somehow your soul whispered, "This is love." No explanation, no permission, just the pure presence of feeling. Maybe it didn't last. Maybe it never became a story with a clear ending. But it was real, and you felt it. Love that didn't need to be claimed, didn't need to be perfect, didn't even need to be returned. Just love, existing quietly, breathing inside you like a secret the world wouldn't understand. And yet, you wouldn't trade it for anything. Because in that moment, you were more alive than ever. More you than you'd ever known. So what if love was never meant to be explained? What if love was already enough, just as it is? Just like that memory you just felt again. Soft, true, still here. They taught us to name love with labels. Right love, wrong love, love that makes sense, love that ruins lives. Somewhere along the way, we began to believe that love had to meet a checklist, that it had to be explainable, measurable, or approved by others. And so we hesitated. We questioned what we felt. We doubted the softness in our own chest. But isn't that strange? To feel something so tender and then silence it because it doesn't fit the mold? Love was never meant to be dissected like a math equation. It was meant to be felt raw, sacred, mysterious. We grew up hearing stories where love had rules, who we could love, when it was too soon, when it was too late. What kind of love was real enough to last? And in trying to obey those rules, we turned love into performance, into hesitation, into longing left unspoken. What we didn't realize is that every time we judged our love, we took a piece of its aliveness away. Because love isn't meant to be judged. It's meant to bloom, even if no one understands it, even if it makes no sense at all. Imagine holding a flower in your hand, wild, untamed, radiant. Now imagine pressing it between pages of a book, trying to preserve it, trying to define it. It may keep its shape, but its scent is gone. Its softness, gone. Its life, vanished. That's what happens when we try to define love too much. We press it between expectations. We dry it under the weight of logic. And then we wonder why it doesn't feel alive anymore. Love is not meant to be preserved. It's meant to be breathed. So many of us carry stories of love that shouldn't have been. A friend we loved but never told. A person we met at the wrong time. A love that didn't match what the world expected. And yet, those are the loves we remember most. Because they were real. Because they came from truth, not from approval. Love doesn't need to be justified to be sacred. It doesn't need permission to be true. It just needs to be felt. Fully. Gently. Without a verdict. So the question is not, was that love right or wrong? But rather, did it touch something real inside you? Because the heart doesn't speak in rules. It speaks in whispers, in trembles, in stillness after the storm. And maybe we don't need to label our love anymore. Maybe it's enough to say, I felt something beautiful, and that was real. Let love be what it is, not what we're told it should be. Sometimes we don't fear love itself. We fear everything that comes with it. Loving too much. Loving the wrong person. Loving without being loved back. We learn to hold back, to measure, to wait for proof before we open our hearts. And so love becomes a transaction, not a surrender. A calculation, not a feeling. But real love doesn't arrive with guarantees. It arrives as a risk soft and trembling. And that's what makes it holy. Our past teaches us to be careful. The heartbreaks, the betrayals, the times we gave everything and were left with nothing. And so we build walls. Not because we don't want love, but because we're terrified it might hurt again. We say, I'll love, but only if it's safe. I'll love, but not too much. But can love even breathe in a room filled with fear? When we protect ourselves from pain, we might be protecting ourselves from love too. Maybe someone once made you feel like your love was too much, too intense, too vulnerable, too inconvenient, and you began to shrink, to love quietly, to hold back your longing. But that wasn't your love's fault. That was their fear. You see, some people cannot receive deep love because it mirrors everything they've been running from. And still, your love was real, even if it went unrecognized. Fear makes us question what is actually sacred. A gentle gaze becomes dangerous. A kind word becomes suspicious. A heartbeat becomes a threat. We tell ourselves stories. This is too soon. They'll leave anyway. It never works out. And so we leave first. Or never even begin. Not because there's no love, but because love feels too big to carry. But what if love wasn't asking you to carry it? What if it just wanted to be held softly for a moment at a time? Let me ask you gently. Has fear ever made you turn away from something beautiful? Have you ever said no to love? Not because it wasn't real, but because it felt too vulnerable to say yes? It's okay if you have. We all have. But maybe today, you can notice when fear is speaking louder than your heart, and choose just once to listen to the whisper underneath. Because love still wants to reach you. Even now. Even here. Even through the cracks. Love is not something you chase. It's not something waiting in the future. Once you've healed enough, or proven enough, or become worthy, love is here. Now. Already. It's not in the stories your mind keeps repeating. It's not in the past that haunts you, nor the future you try to control. It lives right beneath your next breath. So simple. So quiet. You might miss it unless you pause. Can I invite you just for a moment to close your eyes? Not to escape, but to return. To return to your chest rising. To the softness of air entering your body, to the silence that holds everything. Place a hand on your heart, gently, like you would touch something sacred, because it is. And now listen, not with your ears, but with your presence. What do you feel? You don't need a name for it. You don't need to explain it. There's no one to impress here. Just you and this tender, quiet aliveness. The truth is, you are already love. Not because someone loves you back, not because of what you give or receive, but simply because you exist, because you were born from love, because your being is enough. You see, love isn't an emotion that comes and goes. It's a state of presence, a soft, receptive space within you that's always here waiting for you to return. Every time you breathe with awareness, you remember, I am not searching for love. I am love. Can you feel that now? Even just a flicker? A warmth in the chest? A tingling in your fingers? A tear that rises for no reason? That's love speaking. In its purest language sensation. You don't need to understand it. You don't need to earn it. You just have to allow it. To sit with it. To remember, this is home. So even if the world told you, you had to do more to be worthy of love, let that belief melt away now. Here, in this breath, nothing is missing. You are love breathing itself. And if your soul is whispering yes, stay. This is your place. This is where love begins again. Love is not a shape. It doesn't fit inside labels. It's not measured by anniversaries, vows, or photographs. Love is like water. Soft, ever flowing. It takes the form of whatever it touches. It becomes the lake, the river, the tear, the ocean, and yet it is never any of them. Somewhere you were taught that love needs structure, that it must look like something, feel a certain way, be mutual, be lasting. But what if love doesn't need to last forever to be real? What if a love that came and went like rain still nourished something deep in you? What if the briefest glance, a silent moment of recognition, was love too? There's a story I carry in my heart about two winds. One blew from the mountains, cold, wild, untamed. The other came from the sea, warm, open, full of longing. They met once, in the quiet of a forest. No words, no promises, just two winds brushing against the same leaves, making them sing. And then they drifted apart. Not because they didn't care, but because they were never meant to stay. Still, the forest remembers. The leaves remember. That one moment of music. It was love. Love doesn't need a name to exist. It doesn't ask, what are we? It simply is. Like the morning sun warming your skin. Like the hand you held, even when the world said not to. Like the knowing look from someone you'll never see again, but still feel, somewhere in your breath. When we try to contain love, we shrink it. When we let it flow, we become it. So maybe the invitation is this. Let love be water. Let it touch you, shape you, flow through you, without needing to own it, or name it, or hold on. Because sometimes, the most sacred love is the one that simply passed through, but left your soul softer. We were taught that to love means to keep, to hold on, to make it last. But real love doesn't cling. It stays open, like the sky. It doesn't ask, are you mine? It whispers, you are free. Because love is not a cage. It's a field with no fences. Sometimes we think, if they don't stay, it wasn't love. If they don't love me back, my love was a mistake. But love doesn't need to be returned to be real. It doesn't disappear just because it's not reciprocated. Love exists in you. in the way your heart opened, in the tenderness you gave, in the silent prayer you whispered for someone else's happiness. That is love, whether they stayed or not. Imagine this. You're walking through a garden, and suddenly, you see a bird perched gently on your shoulder. It sings, it rests, it trusts, and then it flies away. You don't chase it. You don't trap it. You don't cry, "Come back so I know I mattered." You simply smile, because for a moment, the bird chose your shoulder. And that moment was enough. Love that tries to possess becomes fear. Fear of losing. Fear of not being enough. Fear of being forgotten. But when you are love, you stop needing love to prove itself to you. You realize, even when they walk away, even when they choose someone else, even when they don't say the words you long for, your love still matters, still lives, still heals. Because love is not about what you get. It's about what you become. So if someone once passed through your life, and you loved them, and they didn't stay, don't grieve the absence. Honor the presence that once was. Say softly, "I loved, I opened, I gave," and let that be your triumph. Because when you love without needing to own, you become the purest form of love. The kind that frees. The kind that flows. The kind that doesn't end. Love isn't something you find. It's something you remember. Do you remember the first time you felt love? Not romantic love. Not the love that needed to be earned, but the kind that simply was? Maybe it was the way you hugged your first stuffed animal, or how you cried when you saw someone else in pain, or the way you looked at the moon and felt connected. That was love. Pure, unshaped, undemanding. And it was always in you. But somewhere along the way, you were told love needed reasons. It needed to be proven, deserved, measured, returned. And slowly, you forgot. You started searching for love and approval, in perfection, in people who didn't know how to hold it gently. But darling, love was never outside of you. It was always waiting inside, quietly, patiently, for you to come home. Healing isn't becoming someone new. It's remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. Like wiping fog off a mirror, so you can finally see your reflection again. And when you see it, you remember, I am love. Not because someone told you so, but because you feel it. In your breath, in your stillness, in your return. You don't need to earn love. You don't need to deserve it. You are it. And love doesn't look like fireworks or grand gestures. Sometimes, it's as small as the way your chest rises and falls, the way you place your hand over your heart when you're hurting, the way you stay even when it's hard. That is love remembering itself through you. So, if you've been searching, chasing, waiting for love to arrive, pause, breathe, and ask yourself, what if I've always been it? Let go of the noise. Close your eyes. And just for this moment, feel the love that never left. That never asked you to be anything else. That simply said, welcome home. Let yourself love, like breathing. No effort, no explanation. Just love. Love doesn't need to be earned. It doesn't ask you to become someone special. It doesn't need labels, timing, or logic. It simply flows quietly, freely, like breath. Throughout this journey, you've been peeling back the armor, gently naming the fears, and finding something beautifully simple beneath it all. You are love. You don't need a reason to love, and you don't need to be right to feel loved. Love doesn't sort people into categories of worthy or unworthy. It doesn't only exist inside the right kind of relationship, or arrive at the right time, or require the perfect person. Sometimes love shows up in a glance, a lingering hug, a silent presence that says, "I see you." And then it fades. But what remains is the echo, a soft reminder that love never truly leaves. It simply changes form. You are love. You always were. No matter where you are in your story, no matter how many times your heart has been broken, or how afraid you've become to feel again, love is still there, quietly pulsing in your chest, intact, unbroken, waiting for you to return. You don't have to chase it. You don't have to prove yourself. You don't even have to be ready. All you have to do is remember and let yourself feel love again, not from someone else, but from you to you. You are enough. You are seen. You belong. If something inside you feels held here, stay. This is your home, a place where softness is strength, where your heart is safe, where love doesn't need to be earned ever again. Just breathe. Just be. Just love.